I've come to this conclusion that I think a lot of us are attracted to FIRE because we have really strong scarcity mindset. And FIRE is very appealing for someone with a scarcity mindset. I'm Diania, everyone. Glad to be here yet again. And I'm going to share some viewpoints that I've had about retirement. These are fairly new and still marinating on some of these ideas. But I quit my job in January of 2021. And only recently have I started to tell people that I retired from my corporate career at 33. What is retirement? So I've been thinking about this a lot because I think retirement and money in general is like wildly misunderstood. It's not about not working. That's what I think most people, when they hear retirement, that to them, that means you are no longer working. I think work and retirement are often presented as polar opposites, but those of us that identify as being retired, I think will understand that that's not necessarily true. So now that we're investigating what is retirement, it kind of leads to this question, what is work, right? How do we define what work is in our lives? Is it only considered work if you get paid for it? Which a lot of people, actually, I just sat next to a guy when I was writing this presentation at a wine bar, and he was retired. And when I told him what this presentation was about, and I was explaining to him that I have this business, but I don't make money from it. And he goes, oh, well, if you're not making money, then it's not work. And I wanted to be like, do you know how hard I'm working on this conference? Because it's a lot of work. But it led to this exploration of like, when is it considered work? Is it only work if you get paid for it? If it's an obligation? If you don't want to do it? If it's in the confines of a job. I mean, I think about what I think is the hardest job, raising kids, right? Most people don't think that's work. It's just a part of what you do. It's a part of your life. Yet if you're a nanny and you get paid for it, all of a sudden it's your job, right? So I think that, and I'm not trying to be like, let's redefine what words mean. Like we have to have common language. But I think when you start to really dig into this stuff, some of it's a little bit vague, right? I think that retirement is about separating your finances from your work. It's not about not working. It's about gaining more control over your work, how much you work, who you work with, which is like super important to me in particular, how much time you spend working, what you work on, what do you want to create in the world? Like being able to have full control over that, to me, is a benefit of retirement. I think finding meaningful work and being productive is a really wonderful thing, but our culture ruined it. And so to me, retirement is about taking back that power and right-sizing the role that work plays in our lives. It is also not about drawing down. There are plenty of reasons why someone might not need to draw down from their portfolio. Maybe they're getting income from real estate, right? So they're not drawing down from their retirement accounts. Maybe they're getting royalties or other forms of passive income. Maybe their spouse still has income and they just don't have a need yet to, Wi-Fi. I found really interesting the other day, I was listening to Mad Fientist was on Earn and Invest, and it was a great episode. And he's the guy I always think about when I think about like building your portfolio and the rules and like how much he's analyzed drawdown stuff. And he is not doing it himself, which I thought I did not realize that based on how much he writes about it. He hasn't touched his portfolio. Like that's pretty amazing, but he doesn't have a need to, right? So it's not about drawing down. This came to my attention during economy. Do you guys know Frank Vasquez? He did a great presentation, a 2-hour workshop on drawdown. And the beginning part of it was like, here are all the reasons and situations where you don't have to actually worry about a strategy. And I found that fascinating. So it's not about drawing down. It's a verb. And it's also nicer than saying that you're unemployed. I love this quote from Physician on Fire, Leaf. He says, I love the word retire as a verb. I retired from medicine, My dad retired from his dental career after the markets recovered from the Great Recession. At some point, most of us will retire and start doing something different with our time. I'm not a big fan of retired as an adjective or retirement as a noun. People tend to get hung up on what a person can and can't do in retirement and still say they're retired after they retire. So that's why I say I retired from my corporate career at 33. It was an ending, right? When Michael Jordan retired from basketball, we didn't expect him to sit around and do nothing, right? We didn't expect that he wasn't going to do anything else after that. But when people hear the word retirement, they assume you're just done, right? And I think that's not necessarily the case. Why does this matter? Why does this matter the way we define retirement? I think thinking deeply about what this word means for me has allowed me to claim it for myself. I've only recently started telling people that I retired at 33. And again, I'm not trying to redefine what words mean. We all need to agree on what the word egg means so that we know what we're having for breakfast, right? Like, we're not doing that. But as you could see from my previous examples, this is a pretty vague word. So words that are vague, we have an opportunity to create meaning around them for ourselves. And I think sharpening our own personal meaning is beneficial because it relates to our identity, right? Another reason why this matters is this idea of financial legitimacy, which the woman who teaches people how to pick up dollar bills with her butt, right? That's Barbara Sloan. She spoke at the Economy Conference, and she came up with this concept of financial legitimacy. And really what this is, it's the beliefs and ideas surrounding our financial lives that we allow to stand and that make us feel valid. And so I think that claiming retirement for yourself, it's rooted in our identity. We have a lot of identity in our work, and there's identity in retirement too. I could just tell people that I'm unemployed. That's equally true. But I think for me, it opens up a conversation that relates to the work that I'm doing now. So it makes sense for me to be able to share that I'm retired. There seems to be something kind of embarrassing about retiring early. People have talked about it this weekend where, like, we don't talk about early retirement, right? People think you're weird when you say that you've retired early. We're afraid of judgments. We're afraid of, like, I'm just not in the mood to have to explain myself to this person of what retirement means, because it's not about not working, and it's not about drawing down, and it's not about all the things that I just took how much time to explain. So we don't want the retirement police to come drag us out of our homes kicking and screaming and tell people that we're back to work. But here's the thing. I think that there's power in polarization. I think that people who try to please everyone thrill no one. And we're here to thrill, right? And so by claiming and owning it for yourself, you get to attract your people because you get to see who's curious about that and who might want to talk about that with you. So I don't think you guys are going to like this next one. I was a little nervous to share this part with you guys because I think that your FI number is an illusion of safety and certainty. And I'm not trying to argue with the shockingly simple math to early retirement, right? The numbers work. This isn't arguing with the math of it. But the whole formula is based on assumptions. Your math is only as good as the assumptions that go into what your expenses are going to be, what you'll be doing with your time, how much things are going to cost. These are all assumptions, and we can make very educated guesses. And there's wonderful things that we can do with financial modeling, right, to give us maybe the sense of safety or financial security that we're looking for. But what I've learned is that life is really dynamic. And when I think about how much my life has changed over even the last 5-6 years, my FI number has changed 10 times, as my circumstances and my interests change. And so I've come to this conclusion that I think a lot of us are attracted to FIRE because we have really strong scarcity mindsets. And Fire is very appealing for someone with a scarcity mindset. So what is scarcity? To me, I define it as a blockage of creativity that's driven by fear. And this issue will not be solved with more money. This issue will not be solved by reaching your FI number. So I asked Carl if I could point this out, but him and Mindy just did this great podcast episode on Ramit's show. I think maybe all of us have heard that. You guys know what I'm talking about? We can share links to it afterwards. But as I listened to them talk, all I could think was, wow, they are so in this scarcity mindset. And, there was talk online of feeling bad for them and like, how dare they have millions of dollars and be so frugal and what's their problem, right? But to me, I don't feel bad for them, right? This is a first world problem. It's fine. But I could see that they're a great example of how more money does not solve scarcity mindset. Just like more money doesn't make you magically financially literate, right? Most people think, all my problems would be solved if I just made more money. If you don't know how to manage that money, you're not all that better off, right? So you're not going to become magically financially literate with more money. You're not going to magically heal your scarcity mindset with more money. The reality is when you have money, you have options, but a scarcity mindset blocks you from seeing those options. I think it robs you of your creativity. And I think it's representative of like, you think a number can make you feel safe. I think a number in a bank account or a portfolio can give you some kind of emotional benefit of financial security, but it's not going to make you feel safe in an existential way, which is a lot of what I think we're asking our money to do for us. So how does scarcity show up? The number one way I see it in the FIRE movement is believing that you need to have all of the money that you will ever need for the rest of your life right now before you'll feel free. I see an intolerance for uncertainty, which the only thing in life that's certain is that uncertainty exists. I see unnecessary deprivation and money hoarding guised as financial responsibility. I see changing the goalposts with that one more year syndrome. And I see resistance to drawing down on your portfolio. I run these case study meetups in Cincinnati where every month we get together and we analyze people's financial situation. They put together, we have a template where they bring in their income, their expenses, their investment strategy, their assumptions, and we all kind of poke holes in it, point out blind spots, ask questions, try to help each other wrap our heads around our financial situations. And what strikes me about these meetups is I'm sitting in a room of multi-millionaires and they're staring up at a screen at their money and all they're expressing is fear. And I just think there's opportunity for us to look at our bank accounts and feel peace. And it just feels like such a missed opportunity. I think you cannot know with 100% certainty that you now have all of the money that you will ever need. I mentioned that my FI number has changed like 10 times. And I have now given up on defining what my FI number is. It's kind of this illusion of security in this number is similar to the illusion of security in your employment, right? People always ask you what's your job security, and people will have different answers to that. But the reality is there is no such thing as job security, especially when you have an employer. They could potentially lay you off tomorrow, right? Same thing with a FI number. It can make you feel safer than perhaps it should. However, you can make very educated and reasonable assumptions. And because I feel like you're the guy I feel like you're going to argue with me. I'm like, okay. And also you can do very sophisticated modeling. One of my favorite sites that talk about this is the site Can I Retire Yet? Some of those articles are just incredible on analyzing your portfolio and running it through different modeling and simulations and all that kind of stuff. So my point of all this is I really believe we are asking our money to do emotional labor that it cannot do. I think money is an impersonal and dispassionate tool. And oftentimes it's not even physically real. Like it is literally like just numbers on a screen, right? So what is the solution to this? I think we really need to trust in ourselves more. When I think about retiring from my corporate career, I made my clients $50 million over the course of my career. The idea that I can't figure out how to make myself more money if I needed to eventually is just ludicrous. It's just silly. And I feel like there's just so much talent in this room. Like when I talk to people about their careers and what they do for work, like there's an incredible amount of like intelligence and ingenuity in this room. And the fact that we can't trust in that and we're trying to trust in our portfolios more than that is a little ludicrous to me. What I think is interesting about this question of, do I have enough to retire? Which is a lot of us have even been asking that this weekend. It's inherently pessimistic, that question. It's rooted in scarcity. However, the actual act of retiring, the actual act of pulling the plug on your job requires optimism. You have to recognize that there's uncertainty, and I'm going to move forward regardless of that because I trust in my ability to figure it out. So there's this like dichotomy of mindsets, the pessimism that's required for financial planning, and then the optimism of actually allowing yourself to move forward. I believe our sense of security could be found in our skills, our experience, our connections, our resourcefulness, our intellect, creativity, and in this community. I am not immune to scarcity mindset, but when I find myself stewing in it, I call my 5 friends. You know, I think about probably a year and a half ago, I got a job offer that would have been my dream job when I was still in my corporate career. The salary was $150, unlimited vacation. I would be reporting to the president. I would run the whole team. This was my dream job. And when I was considering taking it, I called Jeremy Schneider. Do you guys know? And he was like, you'd be an idiot to take that job. And he helped me see that my desire for that job was rooted in scarcity. And actually, at this point in my financial journey, my risk is not running out of money. My risk is running out of time. And he kind of convinced me that there is diminishing returns for making more money that you don't need. And so I said no. And I'm so glad that I said no because I have more time to do stuff like this. So I think we need to lower our expectations for what our money can do for us emotionally and recognize that that's an inside job. Another thing that is helpful to me is reading abundance-based books because this is a mindset shift. And just like we've been brainwashed by our cultural conditioning in many ways, this is how you brainwash your way in the other direction, away from scarcity into abundance. These are some of my favorite books that I feel are rooted in abundance. Here's a retirement reality for you, especially if you retire really young. You're probably going to start a business, and you should. There are a lot of benefits to starting a business, and it can actually alleviate some of the uncomfortable things that we talked about at the top of this presentation, right? It can be a source of identity. It can allow you to right-size the role that work plays in your life. It can answer the question, what do you do if you really don't want to tell people that you're retired? Sometimes I don't have the energy for it. And when people ask what I do, I say, I'm a podcast host and I'm an event producer. And they say, what's your event about? And I'm like, now I got to tell them. But I think there's a lot of identity benefits to starting your own business in retirement. A remarkable amount of your personal expenses are all of a sudden business expenses, especially when you have a hobby business. So I am truthful when I say to people that I don't make any money off of economy. There is no, it's not a source of income for me, right? I'm not paying myself from the economy bank account. However, my phone is now a business expense. My computer is a business expense. Every time I buy a personal finance book, it's a business expense. My favorite thing in the world is to go to events, right? Like that's what I want to be doing with my time. And now I'm doing research for my business. Now I'm finding speakers for my business, right? It's really remarkable how this covers my health insurance. A lot of things become business expenses, especially when it's a hobby business. The tax code favors business owners. CPAs in the room, right? It's true. There's a lot of really good benefits. You don't need to like make a ton of money from your business. If you're a little bit profitable or you're just covering your expenses, that's a reason enough to do it. It helps you find your people. I mean, I think about my inner circle today is largely because I attracted amazing people through creating economy. And I think it becomes like a calling card when you have a business, especially that's like related to a personal interest. And it allows you to create what you want to see in the world in like a financially sustainable way. So I could have decided to create an event that I just paid for and invited a bunch of people to come, and I didn't create a business around it. I just created it and paid the expenses. And that was that. But that's not sustainable over the long term. How much can I fully fund that every year, right? By making it a business where I collect, revenue from ticket sales and sponsorship sales, it makes it a lot more sustainable over the long term. It allows me to continue to grow it. It allows me to hire my friends and pay them really well, right? And so there's just, again, a lot of benefits to creating a retirement business. And I find it to be like a real bonding experience with the people that I work with because we created something together. Like, I feel like, Carl, we talk about this all the time, that we're like bonded for life because you spoke on the economy stage, So I love that about economy. And as much as like, I'm not making a ton of money from it, but I'm having a big impact and I get notes from people all the time about it. And it just is like, that's a form of currency, appreciation is a form of currency. And it's been very impactful for me. So that's what I have to say about that, guys. Thank you so much.